Good morning, Mr. Seleke. Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Chairperson.
Thank you. Good morning, Dr. Ngubane. Thank you. Are we ready?
We are ready, Chairperson.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Chairperson, today we have Dr. Ngubane, our only witness for today. And he may be sworn in.
Yes. Please administer the oath or affirmation.
Please keep the microphone on. Turn it on. It's still off. No, the microphone. Turn it on.
I just switch it on for him.
Okay.
Yes.
Please state your full names for the record.
Baldwin Sipho Ngubane.
Do you have any objections to taking the prescribed oath?
No,
Do you consider the oath to be binding on your conscience?
I do.
Do you swear that the evidence will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing else but the truth? If so, please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
So help me God.
Thank you. You may be seated. Yes, Mr. Seleke.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, just for clarity, Dr. Ngubane will deal with certain issues before you or testify on certain issues. There are matters of suspension of the executives, the position regarding Mr. Tsotsi, and Mr. Ngubane's relations or otherwise with the Guptas. The matters relating to Tegeta and Trillion will not be addressed in this hearing. They may be addressed in due course, Mr. Chairperson.
He will deal with those some other time.
He will deal with those in some other time.
Okay.
Yes.
That's fine. That's fine.
Thank you, Dr. Ngubane. Thank you for assisting the Commission. You will please be addressing the Chairperson as I ask you questions, and please speak to the microphone when you agree or disagree. Don't nod or wave your head. You follow? When you agree, nodding, please speak to the microphone.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Ngubane, you were here yesterday when we were dealing with matters relating to the suspension of the executives.
I was.
Yes.
Not for the whole time, of course.
It's all right. Chairperson, may I place on record the bundle that we will be referring to that relates to...
Of course, Dr. Ngubane was supposed to start his evidence yesterday, and it didn't happen because we took long with the other witnesses, isn't it? Dr. Ngubane, you were ready to give your evidence yesterday, isn't it? Or not really?
Sorry, can you just...
You were ready to give your evidence yesterday, isn't it?
That's correct.
And it didn't happen because we took long with the other witness.
That's correct.
Yeah, we apologize for that, but we're grateful that you are here today to continue.
I'm here.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you, Chairperson. Placing on record, Chair, is Eskom Bundle 09 bracket A and 09 bracket B. Exhibit U19.
Oh, yes, yeah. Eskom Bundle 09A and Eskom Bundle 09B.
Yes,
And
Chairperson.
they both deal with Exhibit U19.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay.
Indeed. Dr. Ngubane, I believe you also have the same bundle of files in front of you.
I see.
Yes.
I might still need help with this.
There is one written on the spine, Eskom Bundle 09 on the spine here, on the spine.
Sure.
There is one written Eskom Bundle 09A,
All right.
and then the other one is Eskom Bundle 09B. So when he refers you to these, he will say 09A or 09B, and then you know which one.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Dr. Ngubane, the bundle, Eskom bundle 09A, if you open it, it has on page 1 thereof your affidavit to the commission, to this commission.
Yes. That's correct.
Yes, go to page 1.
Yes. I've got it.
Yes. And that affidavit, it's 51 pages. So if you go to page 51, that's the last page of the affidavit. The top right-hand, page 51, top right-hand corner. I think that's the one you are at, the one you are at now.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Except to say that I had an addendum to the affidavit.
Exactly, some annexures to it. But go to the last page, page 51.
You have explained to him about the red and black numbers?
Yes, I've referred him to the top right-hand corner, which are the red
Yeah.
pagination, Dr. Ngubane.
There are two numbers at the top of each page. One is red, the other one is black. When he refers to page numbers, he will be referring only to the red numbers.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
So I was asking you, Dr. Ngubane, to go to page 51, which is the last page of your affidavit. Anyway, Doctor.
The number will appear as 0051, but he will just say 51, he won't mention 00.
Okay.
Yes, have you got page 51?
Page
51, red numbers.
I do.
You have found
You
it,
do.
okay.
Yes. So there appears the signature and the date for August 2020. You confirm that's your signature?
That's correct.
Thank you. So Dr. Ngubane, then you can go to the first page of the affidavit. You set out in your affidavit your qualifications in paragraph 2. And then the next page, paragraph 3, you deal with your appointment to the Eskom board. Now, could you tell the chairperson how you became appointed to the Eskom board, which, as we have heard the evidence, was the board of December 2014?
Well, there was what I would call a request for proposals issued by the Department of Public Enterprises in the public press. And at one discussion with my nephew, SABC, he was interested if I wouldn't want to contribute because of my experience in the Department of Science and Technology. Excuse me, where I had been a minister from 1994 to 2002. And obviously, I should have a good understanding of technology and physics and so on. So I said I was interested, and then he submitted the nomination.
Yes. Dr. Ngubane, you would know that this board is one that has been allegedly referred to as the Gupta board.
Well, that was referred by Mr. Tsotsi, which I find absolutely disgusting. You know, it was an open process run by the department. We had no contact or connection or telephone conversation that from any one of the Gupta people to say, we want you to be on the board. And I presume this would go as well for all my other board members. Now, to be described as a Gupta board, I think is very, very unfortunate, particularly coming from a public figure like Mr. Zolatsos. Mr. Zolatsos himself had been accused in the press. It was the Sunday Times publication around probably 15, 16, or 18 April. We said he had leaned on the management in the procurement sector to grant Tegeta 2 mining contracts, one at 400 million rands a year, another one at 500 million rands a year. One of them was Vierfontein. I can't remember exactly the other one. And one of these mines didn't even have a proper water license from the Department of Water and Sanitation. But on top of that, at the beginning of this year, a coal contract worth 3.7 billion rand was set aside by the Gauteng North High Court. That was signed in Mr. Tsosi's time. Brian Molefe, Koko Molefe, myself, were hardly, well, I was at Eskom in December, but Molefe only came in April, so it couldn't have been him who dealt with that contract. So those are questions that Mr. Tsotsi must ask. Who did favors to the Guptas? We worked very hard with my board. We found Eskom in shambles. The report that Mr. Madonna gave us at the first board meeting on the 11th of March stated that whereas Eskom should have a buffer of 20 billion rand in order to service debt, pay for services, etc., it had been reduced to 4 billion, of which dependent on loans that were still going to come in. The net effect was that Eskom was in the red by 3 billion rand.
Yeah. May I, please, if I may, we will come to that.
All right.
Just give me the date of the media article you refer to about Mr. Tsotsi.
Sorry?
You mentioned the media article or media report
Yes.
about Mr. Tsotsi.
We didn't ask Mr. Tsotsi about that.
Yes, but you just mentioned it.
Yes, I do. I'm just saying, for a man who can come to the commission and say that we're Gupta board is very offensive, particularly knowing what appeared in the media.
Yes. What was the date of the article you mentioned?
Somewhere in April, I think between 16 or 18,
Of
somewhere there.
this year.
You know, in that region.
Of which year?
This 2015.
2015.
Yes.
Now, you yourself, Dr. Ngubane, have been linked to Mr. Salim Essa,
Yes.
who is related to the Guptas.
Yes.
And would you explain to the chairperson what was or is your relationship with Mr. Salim Essa?
You know, it wasn't a special relationship. Let me put it there. You know, there were more than 20 companies where I'd been invited to come in as a partner, a director, and they're recorded in the the Company Intellectual Property Commission. I'd known Salim from about 2011 when I was chairman of the SABC board. We used to attend the same meetings on digital migration. He was on the board of the broadband in Fraco, South Africa, which was a state-owned company. And we were preparing for migration to digital television at SABC. I got to know a lot of people on that board by those meetings. And I came to know Mr. Salim. It was sort of a relationship like any other of the people I know. Then it happened that in 2013, at that time I was in a company called Global Collieries Fuel Distribution. It was a company populated by British oil people, and some South Africans as well. And they had established a subsidiary in South Africa. We were at JB's in Melrose, meeting these guests, when Salim appeared in the same restaurant and came over to me. And I started introducing my partners to him. And he said, well, he himself was in the oil business. Can he be part of this? So after a fair amount of discussion, my colleague said, well, we'll give it a thought. But the fact that some of them were in Mali, in West Africa, on oil business and railway business, they then suggested that if we formed another company for exploration in West Africa for oil wells, they would be happy with that. And we then met with Salim subsequent to that, and ultimately came up with Gade Oil and Gas, which would be almost a service-level provider to Global Collieries Fuel Distribution. Then we agreed that Salim was going to arrange for travel to CAR, which was the Central African Republic, which had just announced that they were auctioning oil blocks. I was going to use my connections with African ambassadors to gain access to whatever was needed in that exploration trip. Of course, arranging these things takes time. In that year, there was an outbreak of violence in CAR, and our soldiers were placed there for maintaining peace and order. There was a fight, and some of our soldiers were killed. Then I went back to Salim and to my other colleagues at Global Collieries. I said, we can't go there anymore because South African soldiers were killed there. There's instability. And that's how that whole venture fell down, did not go through. And Gade Oil and Gas never then did any business in oil exploration. Later on, Mr. Essa resigned, but I didn't bother to actually delist Gade Oil and Gas because, it just didn't occur to me. It was dormant. It wasn't doing any trading. Now, Salim Essa, as I say, was not a special friend. I knew him, who had decided to work with him. Later on, he appeared at Eskom with Mackenzie. Mackenzie had, I think in 2015, early, had been given a contract at Eskom to manage several things. One of them was Majuba Power Station. One of them was optimizing our corporate plan. One of the other duties was to create a consultancy of young engineers at Eskom in order to cut down the expenses that we spent on consultants. So he was a familiar face at Eskom. But that did not justify any influence in terms of the work that we were doing at Eskom. So I think, Chairperson, that sums up my association with Salim S.
Thank you, Mr. Ngubane. But you will also know, Mr. Ngubane, that Ms. Daniels, Suzanne Daniels, who worked in your office, was charged with exchanging emails with an email address, info portal. And that email address, according to the chairperson of the disciplinary hearing, it most probably belonged to Mr. Salim Essa. The exchange of emails came from your office.
Well, I think I have in the file a copy of that email. I'm not sure if you have it. I can quickly look for it.
That's just one of the emails.
Sorry?
That will be just one of the emails.
Well, the first email that came.
Yes, you can look for it.
Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Selega might assist in locating where it is, but if you are able to look, that's fine. Mr. Selega, you know where it is?
Let me ask Dr. Ngubane, which one are you referring to, Dr. Ngubane?
It says the first one. Does it help? Does it help to say first one? It doesn't.
It doesn't.
Okay, he will find it in his file and then he will give the date. Then we can look.
Thank you, Chair. Alternatively, I can give you the one I have, Dr. Ngubane.
Should be here.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm taking your time, Chairperson. But I think it's important to contextualize.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Just look for it if you have got it there. Then once you have got it, you tell us the date and the evidence leader can look for that one in his file.
Let me assist Mr. Ngubane. If you turn to page 51.147.
Point.
51.147. I think it starts at 51.146.
51.17.
51.147.
Oh,
Yes. Eskom bundle 9, 09 brackets A. Yeah, that's the correct bundle.
okay, I've got 51.147.
Yes, Chair. It would appear that you have to read it with .146.
Oh,
Yes.
You said it's 17.
yeah, 51.147. 51.147.
Yes.
No, I think I'm lost.
Should my,
A
the
junior counsel can assist
Thank you, Chair.
the witness, yeah.
This is looking here for. Anyway, Chairperson,
Yes,
the first email that came from businessmen
yes.
was
Just pull the
email.
mic closer to you. Yes,
the first email that came from businessmen
yeah.
was addressed to Ms. Susan Daniels and copied to me. The caption went like this: comments on the chairman's media statement. At the bottom of that was the media office of Eskom.
Or media office of Eskom, yeah.
And he said, I want to make comments on this statement. And then there were comments given.
Yes,
When I asked Ms. Daniels who was making these comments, she said it was the DG of Public Enterprises. So I said, this was this email? She said, yes. Because I knew I was going to make a public statement, then I assumed someone had passed it, had passed the draft to the Director General for comments. Because, you know, there had been complaints from DPE that we publish statements and they see them for the first time in the media. So it made sense that probably it was passed to him. So there was to and fro exchange of emails between myself and Ms. Daniels about the corrections. Ultimately, the last final correction, I just said it was all right with me. That was the essence of the email exchanges. Thank you. On that subject.
you did not succeed in locating the email in your file, eh? That first email that you wanted to look at, you didn't?
I have done so, sir.
Oh, you have, okay. Have you got the page, the date?
Don't take it out of the file.
I guess that's just so that you can identify it, otherwise return it to him.
Thank you.
Mr. Selega, did you identify it? Do you have it?
I have I've opened to the page we were
but
looking
have you got
for.
the one that he's talking about?
Yeah,
He wanted you to see it so that you know whether you have got it.
or whether it's the same as mine.
Well, whether it's an email you have got. You said it's one of many that you wanted to refer him to. We must just know whether we've got that email or not.
Yes.
And Flora, I can
sorry.
add.
Just one second.
Sorry, Dr. Ngubane. Yes, no, this is, I will take him to the other one, Chairperson.
Yes.
This page is pulled out from the bundle before the commission. So it's exactly the same as my bundle.
Oh, I thought he pulled it from his own private file.
No.
I'm sorry. Okay, no, that's all right.
Well, it's the same as I have in my file.
Is it the
but
same?
I just have found it.
Yes, okay, no.
Okay.
The idea was just that we know whether the email you are referring to is an email that we have got. So that if it was an email that we did not have, then copies could be made. So if we have got it, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, but you wanted to add something, Dr. Ngubane, before Mr. Selega continues?
Well, I was going to say, the Director General was very supportive of Eskom and its management. I think it was prior to this email where it written to the CEO, Brian Molive, who was having uncomfortable conversations with the Chief Procurement Officer at Treasury. He wrote to Brian and said, before you answer any questions from Treasury, from the office of the Chief Procurement Officer, you must send it to me.
Who was that?
The DG, Mr.
Oh,
Seleke.
Was that Mr. Richard Seleke?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, this was
Seleke, Chairperson.
showing support.
I'm sorry, Dr. Ngubane. He's emphasizing that that one ends with an E, whereas his ends with an A.
There's a material difference there, Chairperson.
I suspect it's the same as Zondo and Zondi.
That's right.
Yes.
So I was familiar with his approach to Eskom. He wanted to give us support. I just wanted to add.
Okay, no, that's fine. Mr. Seleka.
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Dr. Ngubane, against that background you've given, one wonders why this very strange email address was used then to communicate official documentation with an official in the department.
Well,
Why not use his official department email address?
Well, Mr. Seleka, I wonder whether we shouldn't first hear what the email says and so on.
Yes, Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, before we talk about it, what its contents was and so on.
Yes. Dr. Ngubane, if you go back, you've closed your file.
Page 51.146. Page 51. Please assist him. Page 51.146.
You are on that page?
Yeah.
So that's... Should we consider the emails from page 51.146?
Yes.
Gmail, that appears at the top of that page, and your name there, Baldwin Ngubane, baldwin.ngubane@gmail.com. Below the line, it's I am sharing draft position statement, forward payment to Tegeta, 19 June 2016. Doc with you. And below that, it's businessman. Info portal.
Before that, Mr. Slager,
Thank you,
Dr. Ngubane, do you confirm whether that is your email address, baldwin.ngubane@gmail.com?
That's correct, Chairperson.
Yes. Is it a personal email?
Personal email, yes.
Okay, all right. Continue, Mr. Slager.
Thank you, Chairperson. Dr. Ngubane, did you have an Eskom email address when you were at Eskom?
I am?
Did you have an Eskom email address when you were at Eskom?
I did.
You did.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there a reason why the communication here appears to be from your private email address as opposed to your Eskom email address?
Well, when I used to come, I came to Eskom, I would plug my computer into a gadget that Eskom had, which converted this email to Eskom email. So I wasn't so concerned because I could access my Eskom email when I was in the office. So some of the emails came directly to my private email. Some went to the official Eskom when I accessed them through the Eskom system. I mean, and every month, the IT people at Eskom changed the password on the Eskom system. So where it was probably official business, they would keep on changing the password every month. But when I'm at home, I could access my personal email if people sent whatever to the Gmail address.
Yes. My question is, in respect of this document, I am sharing draft position statement, forward payment to Tegeta, 19 June 2016. Why was this draft position statement not forwarded from your Eskom email address?
I'm sure I could access it through the Eskom email once I plugged in my computer to their system. So I never thought about that because a lot of times documentation came through my private address.
And just to clarify, so this communication is in June 2016.
Yes.
By this
Well,
time,
it's, maybe you can be precise, 19 June 2016.
yes, thank you, Chairperson. We will go into the dates of the emails. I think it ranges from 10 June 2016, 11 June 2016, and the document itself seems to be dated 19 June 2016. You confirm that, Dr. Ngubane? You follow? The email, the dates of the emails.
Yes.
It's 10 June 2016,
Right.
and there's 3 on the 10th of June 2016. Or shall I take you step by step? And there's 2 on the 11th of June 2016. Let me take you step by step.
Yeah, maybe let's do that.
Yeah.
Go to the earliest one,
Yes,
if you can. Say who it was from, who it was addressed to, and then either you or the witness can read what the email said, and then so that we will have a full picture.
Thank you, Chair.
Can
Okay.
you find?
The witness is looking for the page. And Chair, normally they are in a reverse order when they're printed out. So we will have to start from the bottom and go to the top. But you will see the dates will guide us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And junior counsel can assist him. You know, this thing of starting with.
That's right.
It can be confusing.
Yeah. Well, I don't understand this technical arrangement.
You'll need to be assisted. You're not the only one who doesn't understand some of these things. I think what should happen is, Mr. Slega,
Yes, Chair.
as you refer him to each email,
Yes.
your junior counsel must approach him and show him which email you're talking about.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Mr. Ngubane, I'm going to follow the chronological order of the emails. I'm starting at the bottom of page 51.146. This is on a Friday, so what you read there is on Friday, 30 June 2016. The timestamp is 21.36.58. Then you read Suzanne Daniels. Suzanne Daniels 584@gmail.com. And it says, wrote. This is what came back from comms team, going to read through it now, at home office now. Shared from Word for Android. You see that?
Yes.
And you have Miss Suzanne Daniels' details at the bottom end.
And who is sending that one to whom?
Yes, is it apparent from there, Mr. Ngubane? Who is Miss Suzanne Daniel writing to?
Well, I presume you must have got this comment from earlier. You must have.
Yeah.
That's the only explanation I get.
Yeah. Who do you think it came from?
Well,
From Info Portal?
businessman, yeah.
Businessman?
Yeah, because she said that was the person commenting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you say who is businessman?
It's a select.
Richard Seleke.
Yes.
And not Salim Essa.
Sorry?
Not Salim Essa.
No. Salim Essa didn't. In fact, I don't think Salim Essa would use different emails because he was there at Eskom. They were already working with Mackenzie and Trillian at Eskom.
Well,
Let's carry on.
let's do it this way with each email. One, we identify who it is from, who it was addressed to, what the date was, what the subject matter was, if that is made clear, and then we read it, and then we can comment on it. So
Thank
that will give us a proper picture.
Thank
So
you, Chair.
let's start with this one. I think Mr. Select, the first one is the one at the bottom.
Correct, Chair.
It says on Friday, 10 June 2016, 2100 hours 36. Suzanne Daniels 584@gmail.com wrote. This is what came back from comms team. Going to read through it now, at home office now. Shared from Word for Android. Now, who is she writing to? Can anyone tell? Or is that we can't tell? Are you able to tell, Dr. Ngubane? I'm not good with technology, so I rely on people. Are you able to tell who she was writing to?
Well, I assumed, Chairperson, it was the same person who was making comments on the media statement.
Businessman.
Businessman.
Yes. Mr. Selega, is that your understanding as well?
That is my understanding, Chair, and I think the answer lies in the email above.
Yes, but that one was a response to.
The one above, if you look at the timestamp.
Yes, it was a response. Yeah.
The one immediately above is at 2014, and Ms. Daniels is at 2136.
Oh, so that one came first. Okay, I think that is what's
seem.
confusing me because I was looking at the bottom email as one that
first
would
one.
have been sent first.
Yes.
So probably all of you understand it better than I do. The first one is on Friday, 10 June 2016. No, that's not the first.
At 2014.
Oh, the 10 June 2016 at 2014. Businessman info portal 1 at zoho.com wrote, it's too long, needs to be half-pager in total, without too much detail, and highlight the rand savings achieved as opposed to buying from Exaro, please.
Yes.
Now, that's an email from businessman to Ms. Daniels,
It would seem to be the case, Chairperson.
because then she responds on the
Yes.
same evening
That's right.
at 21:36.
36, yes.
10 Friday, June. And she writes, this is what came back from comms team.
Yes.
Going to read through it now, at home office now. Okay. Dr. Ngubane, do we know what the two of them were talking about here? The businessman says it's too long, needs to be half-pager. Do you know what he was talking about?
Well, Chairperson, I assumed it was what was the title of the email,
Yes.
that I'm sharing draft position statement
Yes.
forward payment to Tegeta.
Yes. Okay. And that draft position statement, do you know what draft position statement they are talking about? Was it a draft statement that you had prepared?
It was what I was going to issue.
It was a draft media statement.
Draft media statement.
So it was before you issued it.
That's correct.
So it looks like, does it look like a businessman got hold of that statement or was given that draft statement?
That's correct.
And he was commenting, saying it's too long. It needs to be half-page in total, without too much detail, and highlight the rand savings achieved as opposed to buying from Exaro, please. Those are his comments.
That's correct.
Is that right? And then Ms. Daniel says, this is what came back from comms team. What is comms team? Do you know?
The communication team of Eskom.
Oh, the communications team of Eskom. Going to read it through. Okay, Mr. Selega, continue. What email came after that, and let's just follow.
Correct, Chair. Then, Dr. Ngubane, if you go one more up, it's on Friday again, 10 June 2016. The time now is 23:20. That's 20 past 11 at night. Ms. Suzanne Daniels, from the email suzannedaniels584@gmail.com, wrote, my first attempt at editing. So she's...
I'm sorry.
Oh.
I can see my, oh yeah, I can see
Yes.
where you are.
You see
yes,
that line?
okay.
Thank you. Is the Gmail account, Chairperson? That's the one that's confusing us.
Yes. Is she still writing to businessmen?
She is responding to too long. So she said, my first attempt at editing.
Yes.
You see that, Dr. Ngubane?
Somewhere in the middle.
You see the Gmail changed.
No, please assist Dr. Ngubane.
So businessman says it needs to be half a page
That's right.
total.
Yes.
Too much detail.
Yes. And she responds at 20 past 11 p.m. She says, my first attempt at editing.
Sure.
And then one more up. You see that one? One more up at 21:23. So 3 minutes later, the same night on 10 June 2016. businessman from infoportal 1@zoho.com writes, we must add the point that Azaro wanted 1,300 for 2016 supply, and the tons bought elsewhere has therefore saved Eskom XXX billions.
Yes,
You see that?
yes.
So this businessman asking for an item there to be added in what would ultimately be your media statement.
Well, there's a technicality there because I think this figure must come from primary energy department.
Yes.
Yeah, well, he doesn't have the figure, but what he is saying is the right figure must be added, must
That's
be
correct.
inserted, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, but I think the point that Mr. Selega is making is, can you see that businessman or whoever this person is making suggestions on what points to add to what will ultimately be your media statement?
That's correct.
Yes, you accept that. That's what he's doing.
That's right.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Selega?
Thank you, Chairperson. Then you have, now is the next day. The email above, it's on a Saturday. Saturday, 11 June 2016, at 13:54:59. Suzanne Daniels, the email address Suzanne Daniels 584@gmail.com, wrote,
Yes.
you see that?
Yes. Let me know what you think.
That's right.
Yes, yes.
We don't have Azaro volumes for 2016, as the contract ended in 2015. You see that?
Sorry.
I don't know why I thought these emails were 2015 emails. We can just make it clear that they are 2016.
They are 2016
Yes.
emails.
Yeah. I think the reason why I thought 2015 because we were at the beginning of Dr. Ngubane's evidence, and 2015 was the first year at Eskom.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, continue, Mr. Selega.
Thank you, Chair. Do you see that, Dr. Ngubane?
Yes.
Let me know what you think. We don't have Azaro volumes for 2016, as the contract ended in 2015. You see that?
I see that.
You appreciate the significance of that statement?
No.
You do not?
No. I thought it was just a statement of fact.
Yes, but do you appreciate the significance? Businessman said, add something about Azaro,
Right.
the volumes for 2016.
Right.
So businessman clearly has no knowledge that Azaro's contract ended in 2015 and that Eskom will not have volumes for Azaro for 2016.
Okay. All right.
You see that?
Yes.
But you knew that at the time, isn't it?
Well, as I say, Eskom will have all the figures in terms of supply volumes, supply agreements, you know.
Yeah, what I'm saying is you knew that at the time.
Did I know that?
You knew at the time what Ms. Suzanne Daniels is conveying to businessmen, that you wouldn't have volume figures for Azaro for 2016.
Well, the problem, Chairperson, you know, these are very specialized things. As I say, the primary energy department deals with coal contracts, when they begin, when they end, the volumes supplied, the qualities. So one takes for granted that what people say, they know what they're saying.
So, So would your answer be that as at the time of this email, you did not personally know whether the Exaro contract had ended in 2015, or is the position that you were aware of it at the time of these emails?
No, I was not aware at the time.
You are not aware? Okay.
Yeah. When, well, let me ask the question because otherwise I'll lose the point. Dr. Ngubane, can you tell the chairperson, would you have satisfied yourself prior to the release, you releasing the media statement, of the correctness of what is contained in that statement?
That's a very difficult issue, Chairperson, because I've produced a whole lot of speeches, a whole lot of media statements, relying on the knowledge of the people who drafted the statement. When you are running a big organization like Eskom, with about 36 to 40,000 employees and many, many divisions, it's very difficult to know the precise facts about everything.
But in this case, you have a person...
Maybe let's, before you continue, Mr. Slega,
Yes.
would it be correct to say, before you issued the media statement or any statement, you would at least take steps to do what you can to make sure that what it says is correct? And that includes maybe if it has got parts that are technical, that includes talking to the technical people to say, is this correct? Is this fine? So if they say to you it's fine, then you take their advice. Otherwise, other matters that you can check yourself, which don't need technical knowledge, you would check that yourself.
Well, Chairperson, one of Ms. Daniel's roles was linkages, coordination. And essentially, paper came from Treasury to buy XY bonds. And I would not sign that without Ms. Daniel saying,
It's fine.
sign it. So a lot of reliance was placed on a very extensive knowledge of Eskom. In fact, this is why she was brought into my office to assist me, because there were a lot of pitfalls and snares, and this is a very bad terrain. And there were a lot of cases that ended up in court, like Westinghouse and Arriva, about the Kubek steam generator. A chairman can't know that. So one realized that I have professionals who vet the statements, and if they say it's fine, then one goes ahead.
Okay. Mr. Slega.
Even documentation from senior management invariably came through her. And there was a big fight at Eskom where she filed all these documents from different senior managers, ex-corps, and one took it that if she says it's okay, it's okay.
Thank you, Chair. Dr. Ngubane, obviously it could be anybody other than Ms. Suzanne Daniels could have been assigned to assist you within Eskom.
I did not interact with officials at Eskom directly, except the CE. So all these other people, when they wanted me to know something or ask something or intervene, it always came through Ms. Daniel.
Well, what was her position in your office? What was her title? Or what was she called?
She was the head of the office of the of the chairperson.
Oh.
Later on, because of her skill, when Malisela Pugubie retired or resigned, she was made company secretary as well. And everybody was happy with this because we knew her skill.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, but prior to her becoming the company secretary, that's the time when she was serving in your office.
She was.
Yes.
She combined both duties.
No, before that, before she became the company secretary, she started in your office.
I first met her at the first tender board committee I chaired. You know, when we came on board as non-executive directors.
Can I put my question differently?
Sorry.
Can I put my question differently?
Okay.
So that we expedite the process. When Ms. Daniels was assigned to you, was she the company secretary?
No, she was not.
Yes, that's what I'm saying to you. So what I'm saying to you then is this: anybody could have been assigned to your office to assist you, other than Ms. Susan Daniels.
I wouldn't have agreed to anybody because, as far as I'm concerned, the people who headed the chairman's office
Yes.
previously under Mr. Tsotsi, their knowledge was very doubtful. As I was explaining, I first met Ms. Daniels at the board tender office. And she knew everything and warned me of all sorts of things. So I had confidence when it came to the fact that she must come to my office.
Yes, well, that statement about the people who assisted Ms. Tsotsi is quite interesting because when Ms. Daniel was assigned to your office, you had only been there for how long? Was that 3 months?
No, well, January, February, March.
March, yes,
Yeah,
3 months.
Yes.
So how would you have determined that the knowledge of the other people is doubtful in that period?
If you check the minutes between the 9th, 14 minutes, there were several meetings. Many board members...
That is March.
In March,
Yeah,
yes, Chair.
2015, yeah.
Many board members complained that the office of the chairperson was not responding to their queries. It was a general complaint, which made me, I had the same complaints myself. So I knew that somewhere in the management of the chairperson's office, there was inefficiency.
Okay. Now, in regard to the publication of the media statements, and as I understand from you is that you wouldn't verify the information yourself, you would rely on what you were told. Is that correct? Now, you were a director on the board of Eskom.
Sorry?
You were a director on the board of Eskom.
That's correct.
You ultimately were appointed as the chairperson of that board.
Acting chairperson first and later chairperson.
Yeah. Now, how do you execute your fiduciary duties on the board vis-a-vis what you say was your reliance on the say-so of somebody giving you a draft media statement for you to release?
Well, again, chairperson, Eskom had so many divisions. So many documents came to the board via the company secretary's office. No one would say, bring me the person who drafted this document. I want to question him. Because it was impossible to question technical information, which you might have an idea about or a glimpse about, but the final detail, this will emerge when we come to the T-systems. It was impossible to question the recommendations from ESCOPs because they came with technical explanation why that contract could not be terminated at that time, and we had to mandate a continuation of the contract. It was technical information. So, although with my previous experience in science and technology, I could question a number of things, but you couldn't go to each and every division and say, come here and tell me why you say this. You depended on people who knew the system, who had direct linkages with the heads of divisions, you know, and that's how it worked. It worked on trust, let me put it that way.
Well, before you proceed, Mr. Selega, yes. I would like us to just deal with a certain angle of the statement, the draft media statement. Now, earlier on you spoke, you said, I think you said you assumed that somebody had forwarded your draft statement to Mr. Richard Selega, is that right?
That's correct.
Yes. Now, that draft statement, had you drafted it yourself when it came into being, or had Ms. Daniels drafted it for you, or had somebody else drafted it for you to look at and approve?
The process was this, Chairperson. Media statements, there was a media division in the corporate sector.
The communications division.
Communications division. They would create the draft,
yeah,
hand it to Ms. Daniels. If she was satisfied, I would then sign it.
Yes.
I would read it.
Yes.
You know, if I didn't find anything atrocious in it, I would accept it and sign it.
Yes, yes. So before the communications team drafted a statement, I take it that there would be communication with you,
yes,
to say, what is the statement going to be about?
That's correct.
And maybe to say what points should it cover. Would there be such a conversation before they drafted?
Certainly there would be expression of need.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, you must respond to this.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, you are going to speak at such and such a venue. You need to say this.
Yes.
You know, that sort of communication always took place.
Yes. So would they identify the need for a media statement first and then approach you, or would you identify the need and then say to them, we need to issue a statement on this issue, please draft something? Or is the position that sometimes they would initiate, but sometimes you would initiate too?
That's correct, Chairperson. At that stage, there was a lot of press controversy about some payments that were made to Tegeta. I think it must have been called for from the Koolfontein mine to Anot, or Machuba, or Komati. But there was a lot of controversy.
Yes, yes.
You know, there was a controversy about the quality of the caloric values and so on.
Yeah.
So there was a need to clarify.
Yes,
you
yes.
know.
Now, so sometimes you would see the need and say to them, there needs to be a draft statement, draft something and let me see. Is that
Correct,
right?
Chairperson.
Sometimes they would identify the need and communicate with your office to say, the chairperson needs to deal with this, we are going to draft something.
That's correct.
Is that
but
right?
in this case,
Yeah.
if I remember well, it came from some discussion at the board
Yeah.
that we had to respond
Yes.
to these controversies.
Yes. And would they be in attendance at a board meeting, or they would be briefed after the board meeting if there was some media statement to be drafted?
No, that would depend on the company secretary.
Or the company secretary would, they would not attend board meetings.
That's
right. Okay, so in this case, do you recall whether after the discussion of the issue at the board meeting, do you remember whether the company secretary would then have been in touch with them and been in touch with Ms. Daniels, and then a draft was prepared?
Well, Ms. Daniels would have been at the board meeting.
Yes, okay.
And then
so she would know fully
she would know fully what was needed.
Yes,
and proceed to produce the draft.
Okay, okay. So would the case be that sometimes you would not even talk to the communications team yourself, but Ms. Daniels would talk to them because she would know exactly what had been discussed at the board and so on?
Probably once or twice.
Yeah.
I had a query and brought in the person who actually wrote the statement.
Yes, okay.
But I think that was not more than once or twice.
Okay, all right. Now, before you became aware that the draft statement seems to have been sent to Mr. Richard Seleke, had you already seen the draft statement, or by the time you saw it, it had been sent to him?
By the time I saw it is when these emails started happening.
Oh, okay. So it must have been sent to him before you became
Much
aware
earlier.
of it.
Much earlier.
Okay. Now, that this person that Ms. Daniels was communicating with was Mr. Richard Seleke. Is that something you were told by Ms. Daniels, or did you know that independently, namely that it was Mr. Richard Seleke? Were you told by Ms. Daniels that this person that she was communicating with was Mr. Richard Seleke?
I asked Chairperson who was making the comments.
Yes, you were asking Ms. Daniels.
Ms. Daniels.
Yes.
Then she told me it was the DG.
It was the DG.
Yeah.
Who, at that time, the
Was
DG
Mr.
was
Richard.
Mr. Seleke. Okay, all right. And you were comfortable with that?
I was quite comfortable, Chairperson.
Yes, yes. But does that mean that it would have been sent to the DG by Ms. Daniels, or could it have been sent by the communications team of Eskom?
No, I don't think the communications team of Eskom
It must
ever
be.
corresponded with the DG.
Yes, it must
Must
be
have been Ms. Daniels.
Ms. Daniels, yes. Would there have been some discussion between yourself and Ms. Daniels before this, which would have made her comfortable to send your draft media statement to Mr. Seleke without clearing that with you first? Why would she send your statement to somebody outside of Eskom without you knowing?
Well, there was a lot of communication between Ms. Daniels and DPE, different levels of officials. It was an accepted fact that there was this communication.
It was you had no problem with it once it came to your attention.
Absolutely.
And she might have known that you would not have a problem.
Absolutely. Otherwise, Chairperson, we wouldn't have been able to run Eskom.
Yes. Well, one of my concerns is why the DG of the DPE must get involved in how Eskom media statements must read. Eskom is a separate entity, and the board is running Eskom. Why must he get so involved in that? The board must be able to make its own decisions, right or wrong, run the business. Why must it look like he was macromanaging the chairperson?
Again, Chairperson, this is difficult. I agree with you In a normal company,
Yes,
this wouldn't happen.
yes.
But there was so much pressure from the war room, from the minister, from the DG himself, to be kept informed about everything we did, particularly as it related to the public, because ultimately it involved them in answering about our actions. So I was not averse
Yeah.
to them taking interest.
Well, I can understand up to a certain level just getting informed. I'm just concerned where it goes beyond getting informed, getting to a point where they say, no, your media statement must contain this point, contain that point, half a page, not the full page, or whatever. I'm getting concerned when it gets to that.
Well, probably let me just go to the issue of the media statement by Mr. Tsotsi.
Yes.
Mr. Tsotsi's defense of himself was that what he wrote, he forwarded it to DPE. And the communications people in DPE advised him to change certain parts
Yeah.
of the statement.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it was normal.
Well, I would be concerned even with him doing that. So it's not about the person, it's just about the practice. But I think the point you are making is, you were not the first one to do it. He did it as well. Maybe in the context in which it happened with all the pressure from the war room and DPE, there didn't seem to be anything wrong with it.
Chairperson, one wants to work in peace.
Yes.
I shouldn't put out a statement and DPE comes on me and say, why did you do this? I mean,
Yeah, well, you just referred to Mr. Tsotsi now about his own media statement and the input that he said DPE made to his statement when we are talking about the input that you say Mr. Riselege was making to your media statement. I must say that when you say one wants to work in peace, Mr. Tsotsi also talked about trying to work in peace with Minister Lynn Brown.
agree.
I think maybe we should take the tea break. Let's take the tea break. It's nearly 25 past. We will resume at 22:12.
Thank you, Chair.
We adjourn. Okay. Just before I let you continue, Mr. Selega,
Yes, Chair.
Dr. Ngubane, are we agreed that whoever businessman is, he is making a contribution to how your media statement will end up looking like?
That's correct, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Selega?
Thank you, Chairperson. Dr. Ngubane, you say you couldn't yourself verify the information given to you. You relied on those who gave it to you. Correct?
That's correct, Chairperson.
Now, you are inside Eskom. Businessman is outside of Eskom, but he comments on the factual details, even to the minute details regarding the volumes in relation to the supply by Azara. How is he able to do that?
Well, there are probably different levels to this answer. Because he can communicate directly with heads of divisions. But every quarter, when we compile the shareholder report, a lot of annexures are put in those reports relating to each division at Eskom. So the DPE has an extensive record of the work at Eskom. I mean, for instance, the minister was complaining about the pricing of coal and diesel. She complained about some suppliers of coal getting paid more money while others were getting paid less. That was a lot of detail that she had. And I would take it that these reports we sent through, she actually reads. And I would assume also the DG actually reads them.
Yes, so what you see from businessman's email is details about quantities, what Azara wanted. And he's helping you to put that in your own statement. How come that you can't do it yourself with Mrs. and Daniels? Why do you need him to suggest that that be inserted in your statement?
As I said, Chairperson, there's a lot of information that goes to the DPE. So I can't answer precisely why you would have such information. But I do know that they get information on coal quantities, on who got what tender, and so on.
But my question is different. My question is, why do you need his input? The information you say he has comes from Eskom. It comes from you.
Yes.
So you first have it before he has it. You have first-hand information, he has second-hand information from you. Why do you need him to tell you what you need to say with your own information?
Well, probably I was not comprehensive enough in terms of reading every document thoroughly. But I did try my best to go through every document. One would sleep at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, preparing for board meetings with reports from all sorts of sectors of Eskom. You know, it's quite possible not to know everything on your fingertips.
Maybe Mr. Seleka's point might not just be about you, but maybe about those within Eskom who had a contribution to make to your statement. And therefore the question being, since they know the information, Ms. Daniels, for example, and I assume the communications team, but at least Ms. Daniels, one would have thought that if somewhat like the DG of DPE was to have a look at the media statement before it went out, it would be on the basis that he would have a look and really see whether there was really anything out of the extraordinary. Otherwise, leave it to the Eskom personnel to put into the statement what they believe should be put in, and not to try and now get so involved in the content of the statement. You understand what I mean? Because the team as Eskom, he would be expected to assume know what they are doing. They've got the technical expertise, so they would put in their statement. If they shared it with him, he would have a look, not with a view to getting so involved in what it says, but have a look and say, is there something that's out of the ordinary that might not be okay? Otherwise, leave it to Eskom to issue a statement that they are happy with. You understand?
That's correct, Chairperson. But I think Ms. Daniels corrected him,
Yes,
about this information.
yes,
So I presume that was normal.
yes. Mr. Selega?
Thank you, Chairperson. So, Dr. Ngubane, this, you say, is the first email communication between, from Eskom, yourself, Ms. Suzanne Daniels, and businessmen.
I don't recall other emails.
Yes. Yeah, no, I heard you earlier saying this is the first communication as we were going into it, which is attached as BSN 38 to your affidavit.
Whether, as I say, I don't remember other communication.
Yeah. Let me help you there. Go to the second bundle,
Well,
which is,
Eskom Bundle 09B.
yes, I was going to place it on
It's better to call it like that, otherwise when you say second bundle, whoever reads the transcript wonders which one is first bundle, which one is
Yes.
second bundle.
You were a step ahead of me, DCJ. On page 761.6. Seven six one point six.
Seven, 6, 9,
761, Chairperson, point six.
or 761.
Yes. There's an email
Okay, 761.6.
6.
Okay. The emails we were dealing with earlier were June 2016.
2016.
Okay.
These emails are September 2015, the year before. And the one at the bottom of the page, Dr. Ngubane, it's an exchange of an email between businessmen dated 28 September 2015, and that email is specifically addressed to yourself. Subject forward for chairpersons. Sir,
Ngubane, close quotes. It's dated 28 September 2015 at 4:41 p.m. And the subject is for chairpersons. Then it says, sir, documents as discussed. You remember that email, Dr. Ngubane?
No, I was not presented with this email when I met with the investigators.
Yes.
So I did not search for it.
Okay. But from your, as you see it, it doesn't ring a bell?
No.
No,
And I don't know what documents.
You might have received,
about.
you might not have received, you just didn't get a chance to search and check.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And above that,
Yes.
there's from Suzanne Daniels to me, board round robin resolution document. I presume that's a document that's referred to below.
Well, the one above that seems to be from you to Ms. Susan Daniels,
yes.
and it's dated 28 September 2015 at 5:23 p.m. So it came after the one that we have referred to that came from businessmen and was addressed to you. And it simply says, sent from my Samsung device. And I suspect that that means you sent, well, you sent something. Maybe you sent something with the email to Ms. Susan Daniels. Maybe it was the same documents that businessmen sent to you.
It could be.
Yeah, it could be, but you can't remember not having had a chance to check.
No.
Okay. Well, on the understanding that you said the person who was using this email address, businessman, was Mr. Richard Sileke. So where it says documents as discussed, so that would suggest that you had had a discussion with businessmen before he sent these documents. But I take it you might not recall,
No.
not having checked.
I would have to check.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm not sure if I will
Chair,
be able to get it now. But anyway, probably Ms. Daniels might give.
Might be able to clarify.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
let's do this, Chairperson. Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Mr. Chairman,
Dr. Ngubane, let me assist you.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, without interrupting the flow of Mr. Silika's evidence, as you will be aware, we have prepared a comprehensive affidavit, which includes in it various annexes. And we came here on the understanding that that will be the evidence that we will be going through. The documents that have just been referred to now, for instance, we have not had sight of them. And as I sit here, I don't have access to that documentation. So it hinders my ability to provide proper legal advice to Dr. Ngubane. I don't know if it's not possible
I'm sure arrangements can be made.
for Mr. Silika to at least provide us copies of the additional bundle that he seems to be referring to, which we have not had sight of, which we have not seen. So
Yeah.
that we are able to follow the proceedings
Yes.
properly and be able to assist the commission.
Yes, no, that's
Yes,
fine.
Thank you.
Mr. Sileka?
Thank you, Chair. We could share with the legal representative for Dr. Ngubane a copy that my junior has.
Well, a copy should have been provided to Dr. Ngubane's lawyers of everything so that we are all speaking using the same documents. A full set of the bundles should have been made available to them as well.
Yes, the bundle is not an additional bundle.
Yeah.
Is what the documents office has regularized in order to separate what was one bundle into two.
Yes.
Yes. So Dr. Ngubane will have exactly what I have and
Yeah.
what you and I have, Chairperson.
Yeah. Well, can somebody, can your junior arrange with somebody to identify exactly what Dr. Ngubane's lawyers don't have,
Yes.
and copies can be made
Yes.
available, even if we are not going to stop with the
Yes.
proceedings, but maybe by, depending how many documents there are, maybe by in an hour's time they might be available. Can somebody work on that?
Oh, yes. I'll ask one of my investigators to do exactly.
So they'll try and make a plan to make copies available to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Might I clarify, though, that we do not have anything except for the affidavit that we deposed to with its
Oh, is that
annexes.
so? Okay. No. I think that you ought to
Yes,
at least, well, Mr. Selega might be able to say, but whether they are given and they make copies for themselves from what you have, or whether the commission makes copies for them. So it may be that the commission doesn't make copies for them
Yes,
because that can be quite expensive and the commission doesn't have money. But if the
We
bundles
could
are made
email.
available,
We
they are
could
requested
email.
to make copies for themselves. I'm sure that will not be a problem.
indeed. Chair.
If I may, Chair, even an electronic version would
okay.
do, so that we're able to
Yes.
follow the proceedings without delaying matters further.
Yes. Okay, that should be attempted.
They will do it right away,
Yeah,
Chairperson.
okay, all right.
Yeah. Dr. Ngubane, then I was saying, let me assist. And I approach the documents from the point of view that you would be familiar with the documentation. If you turn to page 761.9, it's those 761.9. Please assist Dr. Ngubane. 761.9. That's Eskom bundle 09 bracket B. It's that same email, which is the second. You got two emails, one at the top and one below. The one below, from businessman, dated 28 September 2015, 4:41 p.m., and it's addressed to yourself, Baldwin.Ngubane. Subject is the same, forward for chairpersons. Sir, document as attached. Now the document is on the flip side. If you turn to page 761.10, it's dated, well, in brackets they say company logo, 28 September, reference number, round robin B1, 28 September 2015, the board. Attention, dear members. So they're drafting this document for the board. say urgent request to approve the suspension of contract, they say contact, this contract, and or commercial relationship with Mail and Guardian, City Press and Sunday Times on a round robin. This is the draft document that gets to be sent to you.
Now I remember.
Now you remember.
I've not seen this document before in the
Yes.
bundle
Yes,
that came from the investigators.
yes.
But this document was circulated to Transnet as well. I'm not sure about the other SOEs, which came from the department, which asked us to cease contact with these publications until they could justify what they were saying about us. So Transnet would have had the same document. And indeed, I took it to the board, and we did issue a document distancing ourselves from these publications.
Yes. But then let's go back to page.
Well, before you go back,
Yes.
Dr. Ngubane, that's worrying to me. That is worrying. The entity, the board, are supposed to make their own decisions. If some media houses say things about Eskom, it's supposed to be Eskom who decides how to deal with it. It's not somebody else, not the department, which is supposed to tell the board how to handle Eskom affairs or relations with media houses. So it worries me if the department says to you as Eskom board, distance yourself from these people. Why are they getting so involved? You are supposed to run the business of Eskom as the board yourselves. They are supposed, the board members get appointed by the minister, subject to the cabinet approval, I guess, and so on and so on. And they are supposed to appoint people in whom they have confidence that these people can handle these matters on their own. Why are they making decisions as to what you should do, what you should not do?
Well, Chairperson, we are a young democracy. And there's a lot of hand-holding between government and the institutions. In any democratic transition, the elite, that is the leadership in government, guides the process. I'm sure if one examined departmental relationships with any of their SOEs, you would find that there's a lot of involvement of the departments in the SOEs. And I think this is inevitable in the transition phase in which we are going through. For instance, I wanted pension conditions at Eskom changed. Before 1994, when a person had served 5 years, he was added 5 years to make 10 years. So he could retire at 50, having done 5 years, but be given 10 years to get additional benefits. That was Eskom policy. If the widow of a deceased Eskom employee, probably at a particular level, whether it's F-band or E-band, he could remain in the Eskom house permanently. Those were benefits that were there before 1994. Nobody in government or in the department bothered to change those arrangements. So a lot of policies, benefits, and arrangements come from the past. So this type of hand-holding becomes acceptable in that context. We do not, as boards, say, Department, you cannot tell us X, Y, Z. Probably Madisela Pukubia, who was company secretary at this time, might clarify how all this came about.
Chair, your microphone is off.
I'm sorry. I normally do remind other people.
You're much softer than I was now.
So I'm saying what you have just said doesn't dispel my concern. The board, I would imagine, had men and women of diverse experiences, some of whom I would imagine had very high academic qualifications. You yourself had been a minister in the first democratic government under President Mandela. You mentioned Minister of Science and Technology for a number of years. You had been Premier of KwaZulu-Natal. You had been an ambassador. You had been Chairperson of the SAB board, of the SABC board. Why must they think they can't leave you to make your own decisions?
Well, Chairperson, I was also, while I was Chairperson of SABC, I was also Chairperson of the Land Bank.
Yes.
And in all those instances, one wanted to change practices and policies. But it was difficult.
Yes.
You know.
But it must be this attitude on the part of government departments. I mean, if I had, if I found myself in a position where I had to appoint somebody who had been premier of a province, who had been a minister, who had been an ambassador, I imagine that I would say, this person knows what he's doing. I don't have to bother. As long as he knows the parameters, I leave things to him. So why would the department want to, maybe micromanage is a wrong word, but they want to say, you must make a decision that you want to have nothing to do with the city press. You want to have nothing to do with the Sunday Times or whatever the publications are. I mean, you can make your own decisions about that. That's not something technical. It doesn't need engineers. It's something that you can see how they have behaved towards Eskom or towards the board. You can see what they have published. You can make your own decisions. Do we ask for a meeting with these editors of these publications and have a constructive engagement, or call them to account? Do we report them to the relevant institutions, or do we say we boycott them, we don't buy their papers, or whatever? You can make those decisions yourselves. Why must somebody prepare a statement and say, this is what you must decide? That's what I have a problem with, because one is not dealing here with people who have no experience.
Well, I agree, Chairperson, fully agree with you. But the reality is, if the department takes the attitude that, all right, we let you loose, see to everything yourself, that will be very hard for the board and the organization, you know. But I agree with what you're saying.
Yes,
Yeah.
because you see, I think the kind of independence, I know it won't be complete independence, but the kind of independence that the board is supposed to have from the department ought to be such that it should instill confidence even in the public that it is the board that is in charge of Eskom. It's not the department. You know, and this kind of communication where they seem to say, this is the decision you must make about City Press and about Sunday Times, doesn't instill that confidence, you know, because one says, of all matters, that must be the easiest for them to handle.
Well,
Yeah, okay. All right.
probably we become cowards, Chairperson.
Okay, all right. Mr. Selega.
Thank you, Chairperson. And Dr. Ngubane, as you said, the same draft statement was sent to Transnet, Denel, and then
What?
Eskom.
Sorry.
Yes,
No, I'm sure about Transnet.
Transnet.
But I
Okay.
suspect Dinel also.
I see Denel on page 761.11. They say, where they say resolve that Denel/Eskom hereby suspend any dealings by placing advertising and so on. But you say Eskom distanced itself from this.
No, sir. We took a resolution.
They implemented it.
They implemented.
You
Yeah,
implemented.
yeah.
And that is the resolution on page 761.7. If you turn the page back.
Back.
Urgent request to approve the suspension of contact in any form whatsoever and or commercial relationship with Mail and Guardian.
Someone? Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, page 761 is resolution of the board directors of Eskom Holdings.
I mean, somebody who does not sit in meetings of the board is basically dictating what decisions the board must take in this. That is what is happening. You understand?
Sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
And I think it's wrong. If you want to influence what decisions the board takes, be a member of the board. Come inside, transparently like everybody. Be a member of the board and influence. But if you are not part of the board, don't sit somewhere and then dictate what the board should decide. Mr. Selega.
Thank you, Chair. Dr. Ngubane, the other point is this, and I think I shared this with you during the consultation. These emails are exchanged in September 2015. September 2015. Mr. Richard Seleke was appointed at the DPE only on 27 November 2015. And the Funduti report finds that. He is a month later appointed as the DG, I think you said, at the DPE. So my question is, who would you have discussed this draft with? The businessman who says, documents as discussed. Who is this man?
Maybe we should, maybe you should put it this way, Mr. Selega. I'm sorry about that.
Not a problem, Chair.
So what Mr. Selega is saying to you, Dr. Ngubane, is you said that, you said that this businessman was Mr. Richard Selega, and when you said that, I think we were talking about the 2016 emails. Now, what Mr. Selega is putting to you is that in September 2015, there is communication with businessmen, and he says it can't be that they are coming from DPE, because Mrs. Silega is not in DPE at that stage. What do you say to that?
Well,
I'm sorry, I think I said Mrs. Silega instead of Sileke.
We will forgive you, Chair.
Well, you are quite tolerant, because
well,
when somebody says Zondi to me, I'm not so tolerant.
well, you know, Chairperson, actually, I'd never gone around to looking at those dates.
Yes. So
I'm trying to locate correspondence from the DG
yes,
to Mr. Brian Molefe,
yes.
because that will also confirm then what is being put before me.
About his appointment.
No, it was about the relationship with Treasury.
Oh,
So the DG wrote Mr. Molefe,
Yeah.
Brian, about how we must conduct that relation. I was trying to look at that letter to sort of check the dates and time.
oh, okay. But are you able to accept that Mr. Richard Sileke was not at DPE in September 2015, or is that something you are not sure about?
Well, I had not thought about that. But
Sorry?
I'm prepared to accept. I say I had not thought about that.
Yes.
But I'm prepared to
To
accept,
accept, yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yes, okay. Mr. Sileke?
And then, Dr. Ngubane, I want you to assist the chairperson, because the businessman is writing as discussed. Who did you discuss with prior to the email of 28 September being sent to you?
As I say, probably the company secretary can clarify this, because I did not have a discussion on this.
Yeah, because that email of 28 September, which is exchanged at 4:41 p.m., only the two of you feature in that email. Is the businessman and yourself. The email comes from the businessman and is addressed to you. The company secretary is not copied in that email. In fact, at 5:23 p.m., you forward that email to the company secretary. The same day, 28 September 2015.
Well, do we know what documents a businessman is referring to there? Because it may be that when Dr. Ngubane looks at those documents, he might recall who it is he may have discussed them with.
Is the one we've already referred to, Chair.
At 761.7.
At 7, well, that's the board resolution that comes, that is a copy and paste of the document at 76110,
Yes.
761.10.
So those are the documents
Those
that
are the documents.
are referring to.
Yes.
You understand that, Dr. Ngubane, which documents this is referring to?
I do, Chairperson.
Yes.
But there was a memo from the company secretary on this very issue of putting an end. And, you know, unfortunately, I would have looked for that if I'd known about this email.
Yes.
Because it would then clarify
Help you
the
to,
issues.
yeah. Well, that's what I'm thinking about. I just want to make sure that what you have helps you to remember maybe the context, and then you can remember who it is you may have had a discussion with about these documents.
As I say, Chairperson, I don't remember discussing this issue.
Yes.
Apart from forwarding it
Yes.
and also getting a memo.
Yes.
So I would need to
See the memo.
yeah.
The memo would have come from Ms. Daniels to you?
The memo would have come from the company secretary.
From the company
And
secretary?
I think at that time it was Malisela Pugubi.
Oh, okay. And it was the memo related to these
It
documents?
was about this whole issue.
Oh, okay. Well, if we don't have a copy of that memo, we must try and get it. If we do, let's go to it.
I don't think we have, Chairperson.
And maybe Ms. Daniels might assist in getting it if,
Yes, my junior is noting the.
yeah. Okay.
Actually, Chairperson, I think it was before Ms. Daniel's time.
Oh, is that so?
You know,
Okay.
it's all confusing here because there is also an email to Ms. Daniels, but, you know, or it was during the transition, I'm not sure.
Yes, okay, because it certainly does appear that you forwarded the documents to Ms. Daniels.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah. But is there a possibility that these documents may not have come from Mr. Richard Seleke, coming through businessmen? If Mr. Richard Seleke was not at DPE in September 2015, is there a possibility that they may not have come from him? They may have come from somebody else.
Quite possible, Chairperson.
It's quite possible.
Yes.
But you can't recall who it might be.
Exactly.
Yes. Is the position that the only person you dealt with who used this email businessman was Mr. Seleke?
That's correct, Chairperson.
Yes. Mr. Seleke?
Here. So, Dr. Ngubane, if that is to be accepted, that means Mr. Seleke, Richard Seleke, would have had an interest in Eskom even before going to the DPE.
Well, I'm not sure in what position he was in before becoming DG of Eskom. But depending on who he was
I think he was at
talking to.
Transnet. I'm basing what I'm saying on other documents that I've seen in the commission. If I'm not mistaken, I think he was a member of the Transnet board. Or maybe he was not a member of the board at Transnet, maybe he was employed, but I think he was at Transnet before he got appointed as DG of DPE. So I think when he went to DPE, he went there to take the position of Director General.
That seems to be correct, Chair. I understand he was, prior to that, a board member at Transnet until appointed at the DG, as a DG of DPE in November 2015.
Yes.
Well, I can only speculate, Chairperson.
Yes. Okay. Well, it will be necessary that Dr. Ngubane obtains whatever documents he may be able to obtain that might enable him to be more helpful in regard to this. So, yeah.
That will be in order,
Okay.
Chairperson. So, Dr. Ngubane, you are aware of that disciplinary hearing against Ms. Suzanne Daniels? That she was, by Eskom, subjected to disciplinary action.
Yes,
And that she was found guilty.
yes.
And on this very aspect of info portal email address, that she was found guilty
Yes,
for having shared documentation with the businessman.
correct.
Yes. Were you still at Eskom at the time of her
No,
disciplinary action?
I think I left Eskom. I left Eskom in June 2017.
17.
Yes.
Okay. And the chairperson of the disciplinary hearing found that the probability is that the email belongs to Mr. Salim Essa and not Richard Seleke. You are aware of that ruling?
I saw a bit of that report, But she had said at that commission, at that inquiry, that the businessman address belonged to the DG. But the chairperson of the inquiry said he doubted that. But he didn't say or identify who exactly these emails belong to.
Well, according to the ruling, she did. In fact, according to the ruling, she says you told her the email address belongs to Mr. Richard Seleke.
Well, probably my representative, Mr. Kavela, might deal with that issue because,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Mr. Seleka, you were saying Ms. Daniels, according to the ruling of the disciplinary chairperson of the disciplinary hearing, recorded that Ms. Daniels said she heard from Dr. Ngubane that that email address was for Mr. Seleke.
Correct, Chair.
Yes. And Dr. Ngubane, you say you are aware that that's what the chairperson of the inquiry, of the hearing, found.
That's right.
You are aware of that?
I'm aware of that.
Okay, all right. I think what Mr. Seleka was doing was to give you an opportunity to comment on the statement by Ms. Daniels to the disciplinary hearing, to say she heard from you that this email address was for Mr. Seleke. I do remember that earlier on you said she was the one who told you.
That's correct, Chairperson.
Yes. So that is the position. As far as you are concerned, she told you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes. And she is recorded to have said, you told her that in April 2015, about the time she started working with you. April 2015. Now that's way before June 2016. Do you have any comment on that quickly? Dr. Ngubane?
Are you asking about the time when she came to my office?
No, about the time, according to the chairperson of the disciplinary hearing, you would have told Ms. Daniels whose email address info portal belonged to.
No.
So it's dated, they say, they place it somewhere in April 2015.
No, Chairperson. That can't be true.
I'm sorry. Is the position that you never told her that this email address belonged to Mr. Seleke at any time, whether it was April 2015 or September 2015 or 2016, you never told her that?
No, no, Chairperson.
Yes.
Definitely.
You heard from her?
I heard from her.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Dr. Ngubane, please turn to page 761.19. Page 761.19. There is again the second email there coming from businessmen. This is 10 December 2015, but it's addressed to not yourself, but to Marcella 2010. What, do you see that?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Sure.
The focus for present purposes is on the contents of the email. That seems to relate to Tegeta, two-pager between Tegeta and Eskom. Salient points, Eskom will provide bank guarantee for 1.68 billion rand. So now businessman is writing to what it appears to be Mr. Machela Koko, and with bullet points dealing with matters relating to Tegeta and the 1.68 billion rand, which you, I think, deal with in your affidavit. You see that?
Certainly.
And at the top of the page, it seems to be an email from Machela 2010, Machela2010 @yahoo.com, 10 December 2015, timestamp is 7:31, and is a forward to Ms. Suzanne Daniels, 2-pager. You also see that.
I see that.
Does this ring any bell with you? Does it remind you?
Oh, well, Mr. Seleka, shouldn't you read that email first, or ask Dr. Ngubane to read? Maybe you can read it that the context
Thank you, Chair.
is understood.
Yes. So the subject is 2-pager. Now that's the second of the 2 emails, the one below.
Yeah.
The subject is 2-pager. 2-pager between Tegeta and Eskom. Salient points. Point 1, Eskom will provide a bank guarantee for 1.68 billion rand. CP for release is Section 11 approval from DMR, Competitions Commission approval. Next point, Tegeta will supply from OCM, I believe there's Optimum Coal Mine. Is that correct, Mr. Ngubane, Dr. Ngubane?
Yes, yes.
As per contract, but for the 12 months prepayment, January 2016 to January 2017, will give a 5% discount off the 154 rand. Next point, Tegeta will supply from Korenfontein as per contract for same period at the original 380 rand, not the requested increased tariff. Bullet point, at end of each month, starting end February 2016, Eskom shall deduct 140 million rand from amounts due to recoup the 1.68 billion rand. Next point, Tegeta receiving prepayment for 2 mines supply, but Eskom can use monies owed from all 3 mines, bracket Brandfontein also, close bracket, to recoup the 140 million rand a month. Bullet point, therefore, if Tegeta does not deliver full volume from OCM or Kroon, I believe that should be Korenfontein, the payments due for Brakfontein can be closed. Bullet point, any amounts due over the 140 million rand for each month shall be payable to Tegeta. 2-pager, almost as addendum to the supply contracts.
That's an email from businessman to Machela 2010, is that right?
Yes.
That's how it's written.
Correct.
Machela 2010.
Yes.
And you said you think that must have been directed at Mr. Machela Koko.
Correct, Chairperson.
Yes. Okay, continue.
Which the email address Machela2010 @yahoo.com forwards to Ms. Suzanne Daniels at the top of the page.
Let me ask this question before you ask your next question, Mr. Seleka. If the person using this email address, businessman, and Infapro or whatever, is a government official, such as would be a DG, why would he consistently in these emails using an email address other than his or her official government email address? So that question arises to me. I don't know, do you note that, Dr. Ngubane, that it seems that consistently he's never using a government or official email address, he's always using this address?
I see that, Chairperson.
Yes.
However, people use different addresses at times.
No, I accept that.
Yeah.
And it may well be that in terms of what we have seen, the emails that we have seen them coming from this, maybe we haven't seen enough to be able to say he never uses an official address. But it's a little of concern that, I mean, you were saying that with regard to yours, some would be on Eskom email address, others on your private email address, depending on whether you were at the office or whatever, I'm not sure, when you were sending the email.
Well, that would be concerning, Chairperson.
Yes, yes.
Because this is an official
Yes, this is official.
discussion,
Yes,
you know. But I
yes.
cannot second guess.
Yes, yes. And because right now, it's really going into very serious details about some transactions.
Absolutely.
Yes. But you see, also, for me, another question would be, why would the DG of DPE get involved in such details on transactions between Eskom and whoever? Because that seems to me it would be too much. It's like he has a specific interest. I mean, doesn't he have a department to run to get involved into these types of details when Eskom, and you were saying just a while ago, it's an entity that has got thousands and thousands of employees. It's got high-ranking executives, officials who have the technical knowledge. Why would the DG get himself to be involved in these types of details?
Chairperson, as I said, the company secretary kept a file
Yes,
in her office
yes,
of all correspondence that she brought to me.
yeah.
Now, I'm not sure if this would be there, but I don't remember seeing this.
You don't remember seeing this,
No.
yeah? Okay. But would you, if it was the DG of DMR who sent this, would you also be quite surprised that he would be getting so involved? Or would that not surprise you?
Well, the DG of DMR,
No, I'm sorry, DPE.
or DPE,
Yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't expect this detail.
You would expect this detail.
I wouldn't expect
You would not expect
such
yes.
detail,
Yes, yes.
other
yes.
than probably giving a guideline.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Mr. Selega.
Yeah. But Dr. Ngubane, would you even expect the intervention at this particular level from the DG of DPE? Would he tell you the terms on which Eskom should contract with Tegeta? Let alone the details, but just getting involved even
Sure.
in the slightest.
Yeah. Well, again, Chairperson, normally I wouldn't expect this. But as I say, things happen differently. For instance, the motivation for prepayment to Optimum Coal Mine was supported by the DG of Mineral Resources. I mean, this was a direct involvement in a coal supply issue at Eskom. So while one doesn't expect this level of involvement, it does happen sometimes.
Thank you, Chair. And then, Dr. Ngubane, the details in that email. I mean, we know that the board did take a resolution to do a prepayment
Yes.
to Tegeta.
Yes.
And that was for
Not
this...
to Tegeta, to OCM.
To OCM.
OCM,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. And the figure was exactly this 1.68 billion.
That's correct.
Rand. And we understand that prepayment was subsequently converted into a guarantee.
That's correct.
Yes. You have explained in your supplementary affidavit, you were not involved. The guarantee decision didn't come to the board.
No, Chairperson.
But your involvement as the board was to resolve to make a prepayment.
A prepayment to buy coal from OCM. In fact, Chairperson, the MOI for Eskom does not allow the issuing of bank guarantees.
Yes.
And, well, in your affidavit, I think you have subsequently clarified that. Your affidavit, you had said the 1.68 billion guarantee was approved by the board during December 2015. I do not have copies of the report that served before the board nor the minutes of this meeting. I'm reading from your affidavit.
That's correct.
Yes. But I believe you have clarified the issue of the guarantee and the prepayment approval. Is that right?
I was concerned with that statement
Yes.
because it was information given to me. So when I checked, my statement to Parliament, which had been prepared by officials, I checked that, I found that Eskom Treasury had actually given the guarantee to ABSA, but that had never come to the board.
And the board would have been against that because the MOI doesn't allow it. Is that right? Is that what you were talking about a minute ago?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. But the officials would have known that as well, isn't it? That
Well-
the MOI, what the MOI allowed and what it did not allow.
Well, the company secretary, who is the custodian of governance, would definitely have known that.
Yes, yes, yes. It's just like
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think the chairperson has already raised what would have been my next question. The point being that you see somebody from outside of Eskom, because this becomes ultimately the decision within Eskom, dictating the terms of what ultimately becomes that decision. But the chairperson has already raised it with you. That's a concern. You understand?
I agree.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I went out of sequence there, Mr. Dr. Ngubane, because of the issue of the board being a Gupta board. So that's what took us to that process. You see, that creates that impression.
Yeah,
You see that?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so members of the public read these things and become concerned. Now let me go to your service on the board, December 2014, and the the events that follow after that. I mean, we have heard.
Well, Mr. Seleka,
Yes, Chair.
maybe, I mean, you already asked Dr. Ngubane to explain his relationship with Mr. Salim Essa. I think that we must get out of the way the part of his evidence that relates to his relationship with the Guptas. So I think
Okay.
to
Indeed.
finalize that part.
Indeed.
Do you want to talk on that issue, Dr. Ngubane? Your relationship with the Gupta family? In your affidavit, you deal with it.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about, yeah. How you came to know them and...
Well, I came to know members of the Gupta family, particularly the people who were working on the New Age newspaper, because SABC was broadcasting the breakfast meetings, which were arranged by TNA. And as chairman, I used to attend quite a number of those breakfast meetings. And I would sit at the same table with Mr. Hauer, Mr. Williams, who was the editor of TNA, New Age, and some other Gupta family members. That was the more frequent,
encounter with them.
But there would also be social events at their home, at hotels. For instance, the presentation of the Person of the Year, they had that program where Ms. Thuli Madonsela won the award. So there were events like that, and I used to get invited and attend. And there was also the wedding at Sun City. I got invited, I attended. It was that sort of social level engagement. I mean, I did not interact with them in any business way, particularly because I had nothing to do with issuing of contracts or any other such issues.
I think in your affidavit, you also said you got invited to their residence and
Yes.
sometimes you went there.
That's right.
Yes. Are you able to recall how many times you might have been to their home? Obviously, if it's, I don't necessarily want the exact number. You might say it's a few times. You might say it's a number of times. You might say it was many times.
Well, I would say a number of times.
A number of times.
Because the relationship
Yes.
started while I was at SABC.
Yes,
So it was
yes.
over a number of years.
period, yeah. Okay, all right. Yes, Mr. Slater.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. Ngubane, you also say in your affidavit that you've traveled to Dubai 3 or 4 times, but never at the expense of the Guptas.
Chairperson, I did a number of trips overseas. Official trips were booked by the office, both at SABC and when I was at Eskom, and I always traveled for official work on SAA. But when I traveled to Europe or
Unofficial.
Japan for private business, I always used the Emirates because they were the cheapest of all the airlines at that time. And invariably, you went to Dubai and then reconnected from Dubai to whatever destination. And that was my association with the trips to Dubai. It was as a transit route.
So you were not, are you saying to the chairperson, you were not going to Dubai here, because that explanation is not given, that Dubai was just a transit. You are saying you traveled, sorry, you used the word, I beg your pardon, you used the word, I traveled through Dubai 3 or 4 times. Are you saying to the chairperson, you were not visiting the Gupta brothers in Dubai?
No, Chairperson. I did not even go to do shopping in Dubai, which a lot of people do, just to pass through.
Then your relationship with Mr. Nazim Hawa?
It was a good relationship because he was a journalist. You know, he was the one who was linking SABC with the programs of TNA. You know, the broadcasts. He was one at the forefront.
Yes, but what was your relationship with him?
Well, we became friendly in the sense that we were in the almost similar institutions, media institutions.
Yeah, the reason we're asking that, and you recall the reason why. You remember? Because he sent an email in which he drafts a statement that becomes your media release regarding Mr. Tsotsi. His resignation? Yes.
Well, Chairperson, I've been through that with the investigators.
Yes.
I never
Now
saw,
you have to be through that with me.
I mean, I never saw the speech that was alleged to have been made by Mr. Hauer. Because my speech came as usual from the media section. So, I mean, unless I see both and compare them,
Yes.
I wouldn't really be able to tell which was which.
Is the allegation that the speech that you ultimately made or statement you ultimately issued was the same as the one that it is alleged Mr. Hauer prepared and sent through?
Well, that
Is
was
that the allegation?
that was the question, Chairperson.
Yes. But nobody has shown you both.
No, sir.
Okay, all right. Mr. Slega, do we have both?
I was checking with my investigators, Chair. Give me a note. Dr. Ngubane, didn't you confirm to me that it is the same?
Please raise your voice.
Yeah,
Mr.
didn't you
Slega, I must tell you, today you have been doing very well with speaking aloud, so don't spoil that record.
I beg your pardon, Chairperson. Didn't you confirm to me that it is the same that was released?
No, sir. I told at our second meeting with the
Yes.
investigators, I said, I asked you to bring me a copy of the speech. And one of them said, no, this is off the table. That's how that discussion ended.
No, I was in that meeting. I know the statement was shared. The email and the statement was shared. It's on page
Was shared with whom?
with Dr. Ngubane. That email is still contained in your bundle there, Dr. Ngubane, page 761.1.
Well, give him more details to jog his memory.
bundle?
Is it in the bundles?
It is in the bundles, yes.
Okay, I think your junior must help him to find them.
Eskom bundle 09 bracket B.
01,
09
09.
bracket B.
Oh, we are dealing with 09. Under B,
Bracket B,
yeah,
page 761.1.
761. Did you say 761.1?
Correct, Chairperson. 761.1.
Yes.
I get In fact, Dr. Ngubane, I get confirmation from the investigator that the one drafted, which is on the next page, Chairperson, that statement was not released. Eskom released a different statement. So Dr. Ngubane may well be correct.
Okay, let's take this step by step.
Yes.
At page 761.1,
Yes.
there is an email from Nazim Hawa to Salim Essa, and the
Correct.
subject is statement from new board, March 31. Attachments, a statement from new board, March 31. And then it says Salim Bai. And then it says an amended version for your approval. And the message says this message has been scanned for, oh, that's just now. The statement referred to in that email, is it the one that appears at 761.2?
Correct, Chairperson.
Is that the one that therefore came from Mr. Hawa?
Correct.
Based on that, on the email at 761.1, Mr. Hawa sent it to Mr. Essa. And then what happened? Did it end up at Eskom?
The draft statement you would see, Chairperson, is statement by Dr. Ngubane, that's the heading, Chairperson of Eskom on behalf of the board.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now, that statement goes up to where? Where does it end?
It's a two-page document.
Does it end at 761.3?
Point 3, that's correct, Chairperson.
Okay. Now, have you ever seen this statement, Dr. Ngubane?
No, Chairperson.
Before today, you have never seen it?
I've not seen the statement. I'd asked the investigators to get me the statement.
Yes.
But when we met again,
Yeah.
they did not give me the statement.
Oh,
They said, in fact, it was off the table.
yes.
I concluded that, it was a matter
There was
they'd
no
resolved.
issue.
Yes.
Yeah. But I take it that you haven't had a chance to read it, so you don't know what it says, or except for what you might pick up quickly.
I certainly haven't had a chance to read it, but it looks to me very long,
Yes.
very detailed.
Yes.
And that's not a sort of media statement one would give.
Yes, yeah, it's quite long for a media statement.
Exactly.
Okay, now, Mr. Slega, where is the one that Dr. Ngubane ultimately issued?
By Eskom, Chairperson, I believe, is the one on page 761.5.
76.1.5.
Yes, 761.5.
Are you there, Dr. Ngubane?
I'm happy with that, because that is the statement.
That is the statement
That's
you
the
issued?
statement. Yes.
Okay, okay, okay. Okay. Mr.
Yes.
Selega, you...
Thank you, Chairperson.
But do we know whether that statement, the long one that came from Mr. Hawa, do we know whether it was sent to somebody at Eskom or not?
I wouldn't know, Chairperson.
We haven't been,
You don't know anything, yeah. Mr. Selega?
the investigators haven't been able to determine that, Chairperson.
Yes. How did they obtain it?
He says from the Gupta leaks.
From the Gupta leaks?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I guess further work needs to be done to understand, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
They will indeed do so, Chairperson. Thank you.
Well, it is something quite important
It is.
because on the face of it, it seems that Mr. Hawa may have prepared a statement that he intended should be released by Dr. Ngubane. So the question would arise, why would he get involved in that? So it's important to investigate and see. I mean, it's a long statement. I guess you are not going to undertake such a long media statement for no reason. Okay, but the investigators should investigate, and if need be, Dr. Ngubane can deal with it at some stage if necessary.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes. So, Dr. Ngubane,
Well, maybe. Well, I just want to read some portions of this long statement into the record, just so that some of its features are captured in the transcript. It's the statement appearing at page 761.2, going up to 761.3. The first paragraph says, it's meant to be by Dr. Ben Ngubane, Chairperson of Eskom, on behalf of the board. Nearly a month has passed since we took the decisive step to ask 4 of our most senior executives to step down from their day-to-day roles to allow the board to appoint independent persons to assist us to develop a plan to ensure that Eskom is able to deliver a sustainable, secure, and efficient supply to its consumers. Yesterday, at a meeting of the board, it was decided or accepted the resignation of Mr. Zola Tsotsi as both chairperson and the director. On behalf of the board, I want to express our sincere thanks to Mr. Tsotsi for his selfless decision, and I want to wish him well for his future endeavors. The board has once again reaffirmed its approach around its broad-ranging investigation and the request for key individuals to stand down in order for the process to take place without fear or favor. And then later on in that page 761.2, it says the board once again confirms the key challenges impacting on Eskom and its ability to provide a sustainable, secure, and efficient electricity supply. These are: 1, cash constraints at the utility; 2, an overburdened energy system leading to unprecedented load shedding; 3, an aging fleet and a seriously flawed maintenance program; 4, rapidly increasing price of electricity; 5, delays and cost overruns of the new build program. And then at page 761.3, it says somewhere, it is our expressed desire that the investigation determines whether the current situation was exacerbated by incompetence, ill-informed decision-making, mismanagement, or untoward actions. Yeah, okay. I just wanted to capture certain parts of the of the statement. Maybe I should ask this question, Dr. Ngubane. If indeed this statement was prepared by Mr. Hauer or at his request, that would suggest that somebody would have spoken to him to say, would you prepare a statement? Or if nobody spoke to him from Eskom, he might have thought that the situation was such that if he forwarded this statement to Eskom, it would be found to be helpful and could be used. Do you know any grounds on which he could have thought that he was entitled to prepare a statement for you and send it, and you would use it? Do you think your friendship, if it was a friendship that you had with him, may have made him believe that he could give you this kind of assistance?
Well, he was a journalist, Chairperson. And the story about Mr. Tsosi's resignation was in all the newspapers. But I'm not sure if that would be justifying preparing a specific statement.
In terms of your relationship, as you know it, is there a chance that he might have thought that you would welcome this kind of initiative on his part?
Well, you know, at one stage, one of my nephews was aspiring to be a contributor of a column. So he wrote a number of articles, which was sent to Mr. Howe to check if journalistically they are acceptable. That, of course, ended in no commissioning. So probably on that basis, he might have wanted to help me, I don't know. But this is far back as I can think of why someone would want to write me a document.
And at the time of, at this time, 31 March 2015, how much did you keep in touch with him?
Not much. They occasionally wanted me to contribute or ask questions about Eskom, but it wasn't much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Mr. Selega, you might have one or two questions, and then we adjourn, or we could adjourn for lunch immediately. Okay, let us adjourn for lunch. We are at 1:07. We will resume at 2:05. We adjourn.